Hello everyone, welcome to week 7 where we look at motivation. What drives adult learners? Something missing from the reading this week is the idea of learner persistence. So I'm adding this little video, and there's a document in the Want to Know More section if you want to delve deeper into this topic. But there has been some significant research in recent years on learner persistence specifically in adult education, and it's very germane when we're talking about the motivation of adult learners. So some questions to answer would be, what is persistence, and does that mean the same thing as retention? What drives it? And what are some strategies to promote it in our classrooms? Webster says that it's going on resolutely or stubbornly in spite of opposition, inopportunity, or warning. I think that's pretty good. Even though something might be difficult, it's that drive that keeps you going till you get to the end of it. That's a pretty good definition. We'll start there. Now, what it is not the same as retention. Retention is a program level term. Retention means to continue to have or to hold something, and this is what programs do when a learner remains enrolled in the program. So the thing to remember is students persist because that's an internal driver. It's the programs that retain the students when the students remain enrolled. Students persist, programs retain. I have put this document in the Want to Know More section. This was a study done in New England in 2009. They studied 18 different adult ed programs throughout New England, and the teachers and the staff did action research with the students. They interviewed students, they looked at program policies, they implemented new policies or changed other policies, and tried to look at, why do students keep coming to class despite barriers, despite obstacles, and what are the most important factors in a program that can keep those students coming back despite all those barriers? So when Nash and Kallenbach started out with their study, they started with this basic goal, which was to improve adult learner persistence and outcomes in order for the adult learners to be able to meet their educational and related life goals, and to thus strengthen workforce development in New England. So that was a very broad goal with very lofty outcome. And the underlying assumption of the project, though, is that persistence is the underpinning for academic progress that results in positive outcomes and an improved quality of life for adult learners. So remember that it's the learners that persist, and it's the programs that retain. So if it is the underpinning for their academic progress, it is not coming from you, it's coming from them. They identified 4 phases of learner engagement with a program. Obviously, it starts with intake and orientation. And this is your first contact, your first opportunity to make it or break it with the student. It's like those first 5 seconds in an advertisement. There's instruction, which is the majority of time the student will spend in the program, in your classroom. Counseling and peer support, and this can include things like career planning, goal setting, maybe accessing support services that they need. And then re-engagement. And this is staying engaged with the program after the learner has stopped coming. And that can be instigated either by the learner or by the program. We know there are many negative factors that keep our students from coming to class unless they are in the correction system, and then of course they have to be there. And there are students in adult education programs who are not incarcerated, but they are court ordered to be there. So it is possible to have learners in the classroom who are not there by their own desire. I guess the challenge is then, how do you help them develop the desire to keep coming back? But some of these, we've seen all of these, we've heard these stories, the different work schedules, working 2 jobs, lack of reliable childcare or transportation, poor health, or needing to take care of somebody else in the family who might be sick, lack of family support, which is interesting, drugs and alcohol, and just sheer exhaustion. And these were all reported by students. So let's add to our definition of persistence that it is driven by an individual's particular response to positive and negative forces that are not necessarily under the school's control. Let me go back to that first slide. How many of those can you control? None of them. So the majority of things that keep students from coming to school are out of your control. Nash and Kallenbach identified 6 drivers of persistence: a sense of belonging in community, clarity of purpose, a sense of agency, competence, relevance, and stability. Promoting a sense of belonging in community is probably nothing new to you. This is the environment that the student encounters the first day he walks into your classroom. And it's a welcoming environment, and you walk up and you shake his hand and you introduce yourself and you do an icebreaker and everybody gets to know each other. But how these students interact with each other throughout the term also goes towards building communities. So having the students work in teams, doing projects, how you group them, mixing up the grouping strategies, maybe pairing higher functioning students with students who are struggling in the level to help them kind of develop that kind of peer mentoring relationship. These are all things that build a sense of belonging, and certainly validating their cultures and differences and celebrating those. Finally, the idea of reaching out to students who stop coming to school. That's something that you might be able to do, the teacher, or someone at the program can do. But when a student has been missing for, say, 3 classes in a row, somebody should be giving them a call. Promoting clarity of purpose is all about goal setting, having students identify their goals, monitor their goals, evaluate their own progress towards getting those goals, and maybe reassess the goals over time. But also just engaging them in a dialogue about what they hope to attain later after they've left your classroom. Why are they taking your class in the first place? Always use authentic materials and tasks, and then recognizing their progress and achievements as a simple thing like a certificate of attendance hours for ESL students makes a huge difference, because you're telling them, we see you, we recognize you, we celebrate you. And always provide constructive feedback. How can they practice more? Places where they can get help if they're struggling with math, helping them find a tutor, that kind of thing. Promoting a sense of agency is all about the students having the sense that they have some control in what's going on. They need to feel capable of initiating actions to benefit themselves and others, and that includes walking into your classroom every day, where they can make informed choices and letting them know what those choices might be. Identifying the persistence forces and barriers, helping them identify them might be the first step towards helping break down those barriers. Provide learning options for students, like if you have at-risk students who simply cannot be in a room with other people, then let the student do some self-study at home. Offer tutoring services, because the first thing that grows when you provide one-on-one tutoring to a student who is struggling is their self-confidence, and that builds motivation. Involve students in the orientation and the mentoring of their peers. That's also part of community building. Promoting competency, the students need to know that they are actually developing skills that are helping them progress as humans, get a better job, have better communication with your child's teacher. They need to know that what they're doing is going to help them be successful in the future. Get them again engaged in dialogue about their learning and their goals, and expand their roles and responsibility. Give them classroom tasks. The peer mentoring, again, I'm going to bring that up again because that's a very powerful learning dynamic. But give them some tasks. Promoting relevance, of course, means that the instruction is meaningful to their lives, that um, they can use math in many ways as they go about their day. Knowing about history is meaningful for them because it gives them background knowledge to know what's happening today. Drawing upon their own lives and strengths and experiences, and helping them discover the connections with what they're learning now with what they've learned in the past. And then finally, promoting stability. Now, this is not only the stability of the program, that it's a nice, safe learning environment, it's structured, and the learners need to feel confident that they can thrive there and that they can learn. But it also connects learners with supports that they might need. So letting them know who the counselor is who can help them if they're homeless, if they need transportation, maybe they can get a bus pass, that kind of thing. Providing instruction with sufficient intensity and duration for progress. Now, I think the minimum number of instructional hours is 4 hours weekly. 6 is better if the program can afford it and can offer it. But one class a week, it can take a long time for a student to show progress, depending on how long the class is and how motivated the learner is. Scaffold your instruction. Institute managed enrollment so that you don't just cut it off and say, okay, nobody can enroll now. It's the beginning of September. You have to wait till January. Keep your enrollment open for a month. Wait till the 1st of October and then stop and then take no more new students. Always model flexibility, patience, and fairness. So when the student stops coming, is that a dropout? Do we call them a dropout? What Nash and Kallenbach discovered from what the learners told them was that when they stopped coming, they always intended to come back. And when they did come back, it was almost always because someone at the program had reached out, made contact, and communicated that they were valued and missed. So they suggested don't use the term dropout with adult learners. Call them stopouts because they do intend to return. So let's add to persistence. Persistence is returning to the classroom when the time is right. Nash and Kallenbach identified 4 key supports at the program level. Establishment of goals by the students, and this can happen in your classroom as well. Helping students develop an understanding of what barriers might keep them from coming to school, and that might be their first step in breaking down those barriers. Helping them develop their self-efficacy and that they know they're able to do these things on their own. And then instituting assessment procedures that help the students recognize their progress. Another document for this week is called The First 3 Weeks, and this is by B. Allen Quigley. And he determined that the first 3 weeks in an adult education program are the critical period. You will either keep, retain, or lose the students in those first 3 weeks, depending on how well the program does in breaking down any of the barriers, situational, dispositional, and institutional. You make the difference, teachers. You are the first line of defense for a student who might be at risk of stopping out. Recognizing when someone's in trouble, finding them a tutor, finding them a counselor, helping them discover how to solve their problems. You make the difference. Here are some resources for this presentation. I hope you enjoy reading the Quigley piece. It's not very long. And if you want to know more about the New England Persistence Study, it is in Want to Know More. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.